Stan Lane. It's like the old Jerry Springer shows, if you remember those. He's taken the paternity test and he is not the father. Let me read you this. This is a write-up from the Independent newspaper. Stan Lane, 69, very appropriate age for Stan, was accused by the Colorado Republican's mother, Shawn Roberts Bentz. Now, this is, Colorado Congresswoman Lauren Boebert is apparently or accused of being the daughter of Stan Lane. Now, the mother, decades ago, accused Stan Lane of fathering the child while he was working for Championship Wrestling in Florida. He submitted to a court-ordered DNA paternity test in the 80s to settle a child support dispute, which found that he and the 36-year-old lawmaker were not related. However, doubts persisted after a lab technician who took Mr. Lane's DNA was later convicted of taking a bribe to switch samples in a separate case. In May, Mr. Lane and Ms. Boebert agreed to submit their DNA for testing, which proved that they are not father and daughter. And in a statement, Ms. Boebert agreed that the matter was closed, joking, "The Toby Keith song, Who's Your Daddy, hits a bit differently now."
Well, I had heard about this case probably 5 or 6 years ago. And I went, who is this woman and where was it? I would have thought it would be like more like Memphis or somewhere in Tennessee or Kentucky or somewhere, but it was in Florida. And it doesn't surprise me. You know, Stan is a good-looking guy, always surrounded by good-looking females. And sometimes when we would stay over, it was nothing to see Stan with a female or two going up to his room. And it didn't surprise me that this could have been his daughter. And then, as you've just read, you know, the mother claimed that he was the daddy a long time ago. And they took a DNA test. Is that what it is?
Yep. Oh, a paternity test in the 80s.
Oh, okay. But a paternity test, which proved that he wasn't the father, but the mother doubted that because the examiner or the person who collected these samples had been accused of altering results for money and wanted another one. So Stan says, okay, we'll take another one. And they took one, and it proved that he is not the father of Lauren Boebert or whatever her name is.
Wouldn't it be fun if it was revealed, like, you know, a lovely, like a card in a gold envelope, something like that, you know, really, real showbiz style.
Well, not Jerry Springer. He has shows like that, but there was another show that was all they talked about. Who's the Daddy? I can't remember the name of it. It's not on anymore. That was a great show. I love to watch that show because people love to watch people in turmoil and agony and distress, and it was one of my guilty pleasures. And they would go back and he'd open it up and he says, "Robert, you are not the father." And the girl, she'd just go nuts and she'd run in the bag. Oh my God. They had one girl on there. They'd had her on 4 times with 4 different guys, and none of them were the father. So that girl, she led a very busy life. So, but anyway, I'm glad they got that straightened out. We don't got to hear it anymore. And Stan, I think he dodged a bullet, to tell you the truth, because I think he does have some more kids running around.
Oh, do you? Well, I mean, with Stan's reputation as Mr. Lover Lover, I mean, I know you don't know the Shaggy song, Mr. Lover Lover, that one. Stan's got the reputation of reputations, hasn't he?
Well, he has to have, because he was a very, very in-demand individual back in the day. And he didn't get married to, how old is he now, 69?
69.
I don't think he got married to about 10 years ago. And I asked him, I said, "You don't want to get married?" He said, "Nah, not really." And I don't blame him. I mean, he had a bunch of girlfriends. So instead of settling for just one, he settled for 10 or 20 or whatever he ended up with.
I'm going to quote this Mick Foley thing. Not really a quote, but Mick Foley once said it wasn't an unusual sight to see Stan Lane walking to his hotel room with 2 women and a jug of baby oil.
Yeah. Well, that makes you think some things, but yeah, but I've seen him walk with one, and that's why I said maybe 2, and it could have been more at times. But hey, what he did was his business. I've always learned to stay in my own lane. And I knew a lot of guys who was very, very jealous of Stan. Because if he had 2 girls, that meant maybe one guy didn't have a partner that night. And they said, well, wait a minute, maybe you should introduce me to her. But he didn't.
No, he wasn't sharing the love.
No, he wasn't.
With that being said, I wrote this down beforehand. I think there's a story of what maybe Stan Lane being victim to the Mabel Rib at one point. I'm sure you know what the Mabel Rib is, but for
what is the Mabel Rib?
Oh, you don't know? Oh, you don't know what the Mabel Rib is?
No.
Oh, right. Okay.
Is this an English thing?
No, it's a wrestling thing.
Okay, let me have it.
Essentially, there's various variations of it, but you're with a girl, and then someone plays their boyfriend with a shotgun wielding, saying, how dare you, blah, 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 and, sort of chase them out of the room, and that's the Mabel Rib.
I've heard of it, but I didn't know it was called the Mabel Rib. And you used to do that rib on guys who are new, who are completely new to the territory, that they don't really know the landscape of it or the makeup of it. And then can you imagine a guy just coming in and getting a good looking girl, and somebody knocks at the door, and all of a sudden somebody got a shotgun? I think I'd be leaving that territory. If that was her brand of humor, I think I could go without that.
Well, at least it wasn't in Calgary. You never went to Calgary because 1, it's cold, and 2, they made you go into a shack in the woods first before you were chased by a psycho with a shotgun. One more thing I want to bring up is Stan Lane has also, apart from being accused of being the father of a child that wasn't his, he's been accused of being dead, which he isn't.
Yeah.
So, do you know the story well?
I've heard the story.
Yeah. So I'll just.
But I don't know where it happened, who did it, why. I've just heard about it.
I'll give you the very short version.
So the people, the fans that are listening, they're hearing this the same time I am.
So it is a very good story where a man died and had been claiming he was Stan Lane since like 1983. He goes up to a girl and introduces himself as Stan Lane. They get married. I think they probably may have even had kids. Just kept telling her that he was Stan Lane. And then when this fella died, claiming he was Stan Lane, keep in mind also that Stan Lane was on TV for years. I think this was in like the Memphis or Tennessee area, so it's not like he wasn't on TV. This guy didn't even particularly look like Stan Lane. But apparently, supposedly hoodwinked. And, they may have been selling merchandise over the years and that kind of thing. And when this fella died...
was he even a wrestler?
No.
No?
Just a man pretending to be Stan Lane. Just a guy. And he dies. Everyone calls real Stan Lane up saying, checking that he has died. And when he answers, it's like, no, I've definitely not. And then Stan Lane calls the widow and says, you do realise that I'm Stan Lane and the guy you were married to wasn't. She claims that the guy who died, her husband, was Stan Lane. The whole thing is that at fake Stan Lane's funeral, they were selling merchandise of the real Stan Lane.
Was Kenny Bolin there?
Kenny Bolin may have got the corpse of fake Stan Lane signed.
He would take it on tour. Is what he would do. He'd take it around, and he'd go about 6 cities the next week and sell the merchandise, and he'd move on. Yeah, I'd heard that story, and people are so gullible. They will believe anything. Now, he didn't go Stan Lane. I think that was his real name.
Yeah. I said Stanfield? Not instead of Stanley?
Stanfield. I used to call him Stanfield because he made the mistake one time of telling me his name, and I went, Stanfield. Now, how many times in your life do you meet someone named Stanfield? Not often.
0 for me.
And I used to say, Stanfield. He'd say, stop it. But Stan, he was a good guy and hilarious. Funny guy. And he could do impressions, and he was a good guy to travel with.
Does he do podcasts?
Does he? I don't know.
I've never heard him. He may have done like 1 or 2 interviews ever.
You want me to check and see?
Oh, that'd be brilliant. That'd be a get as well, Stanfield.
Oh, we need to get him. We do need to get him. All right, so write it down, folks. I'm on the quest for Stanfield. And let me see if I can run him down.
That'd be brilliant. We'll move on.
Jimmy Hart would have his number.
Well, you need to call Jimmy Hart as well. He's
you know who would have his number? Your buddy Steve Kern.
Ooh, yeah. I suppose we could. I suppose I could ask.
Yeah, he would have his number.
I
think they stayed fairly close, and I think Stan. I think he's in Florida right now.
He could drive down.
Where all of us go. We're not Florida oriented, but we'll check on that.
Speaking of which, I interviewed Stevie Richards. Hello, Stevie. He's an avid watcher of Storytime with Dutch Mantell, and I was expecting him to say, "Oh, where are you living now?" And was expecting him to say Philly or wherever. He goes, "No, I'm in Florida." Everyone's in Florida. Just like if on a map, wrestlers just seem to just fall. Just like
they just drop in Florida. Now I came down here because my daughter came down here. Otherwise, I'd probably still be in Tennessee. But I wanted to, and if I didn't come down here with my daughter, I probably wouldn't even know my granddaughter. So I came down here to be close to my daughter and my granddaughter, and I enjoy it.